People are just straight up animals. Can I just say that with the absolute certainty, honestly? It just blows my mind how so many times where people usually come through and enjoy something that they really like, but then there's also somebody that comes also through that probably give you maybe a valid reason of why they don't necessarily like it, and that's fine, right? But then it's when you get the whole conversation going, and then some people that don't have context to kind of come through and just start talking all over the place, and it's just go into this wild and ass direction of where it used to be no longer exists, where the topic we're talking about something very simple, something easy to understand, maybe a bit to criticize at some point in time, and it's completely understandable, and now it's turned into this big hellscape of a mess, which is usually twitter.com, right? And that's essentially what is usually happening, you know? And it's even more crazier when you look at different fandoms and different things that you like and stuff of the sort, and it's just like, what are we actually talking about? How do we go from one thing here to a whole nother thing? That's essentially lolly in a nutshell. Hell, if we're gonna be perfectly honest, this is exactly the same type of argument that you can kind of look at when it comes to Final Fantasy VII and how you're supposed to pronounce cat sheaf or cat she, right? With that damn character. And essentially people were just going off and going on and just talking about how the history of it and stuff like that, and the lineage of the Scotland people, and how people pronounce it in Gaelic, and that's like a language and all that sort of stuff. And to be fair, there's a very small part of it where it's interesting and it's cool, because oh shit, I didn't even know that certain things was a thing, like how you're supposed to pronounce it in Gaelic and things like that, or the Scotland lineage and things of that sort, and it makes a shit ton of sense, right? I'm learning something I didn't know at that time. But then you see a whole nother side of that argument where essentially it's just like people like, oh, well, you're a dick, you're an absolute dipshit, you need to burn, and I can't wait to beat your ass with a baseball bat. And it's like, did you be a part of the original conversation? Like, what is happening? I thought we were talking about a damn cat from a video game. What are we talking about? Right? And that's exactly what it feels like when you're talking about lolly majority of the damn time to anyone that isn't a lollycon themselves. Essentially, a lot of the time they're just like, oh, well, I like this character like Kana or something like that. And then all of a sudden, out of absolute nowhere, like they just came from, I don't know, the side screen of a video game or some shit, and they're immediately trying to beat your ass with whatever the hell they're saying, trying to do a whole bunch of wild shit, and it doesn't make any kind of sense. Like, buddy, we're talking about a cartoon character. We're talking about a character that's from fiction that only exists in Japan. What in the absolute F are we going on about? The thing is when you start really talking about lolly, a lot of the time, and this is where shit gets weird, is when things start going into like a real life route of, oh, I like Kana because I think she's cute. Oh, so you're saying that you like children? Is that what you're saying? How do we get from that? How do we go from that parts of the conversation? How do we jump from that shit? I don't understand that. It's so weird because no one was talking about any real children at all until some weird out of context, not knowing anything force kind of comes in and basically try to make a statement for what they're trying to do here. Like, we were talking about a fictional dragon girl, not no real life child. Why is that something that we're bringing in some shape or form? I don't know. And that's how, essentially, if you're talking about it in a big sort of space where everybody can get in on it, that's usually how a lot of conversations go. Oh, you're talking about lolly? Chuck it in real life. Why? We wasn't talking about real life. And then when times does happen, when people bring that in, that's when the stupidity basically starts. You have people being like, oh, well, so you're just basically a predator or something like that. No, we were talking about a fictional freaking character. Like, again, what is going on? Do we need like a psychologist to figure out the human brain, to figure out why do we keep flipping the subject on a very basic simple talking point, honestly. It's like, what's going on with this? And then when the conversation gets big and bold and crazy and a whole bunch of people are talking, you basically lose what the original conversation was. I just said I think Kana was adorable. Now everybody coming through with every opinion under the damn sun, and now everybody wants to commit mass genocide over one damn freaking conversation and something out of context of it, and potentially maybe a bit of not liking the thing yourself, and it going into a sporadic ass thing, and emotions gets high, and it's ridiculous, and it just goes in very weird places that it definitely never was meant to ever go. It's strange. And then now you have people basically just thinking, oh, if anybody says the word lolly, you're a bad guy and you need to be stopped. That's not how this works, obviously, but people don't necessarily know how to wrap their brains around it, honestly, because they don't want to learn. And that's the weirdest thing. The reason why the cat thief whole debate is a little interesting at some points is mainly because people are talking about it in the history of that term, the history and folklore of that character. And it's like, oh, okay, I didn't know any of that. So that's kind of cool to learn. And there's really a reason to understand why people are kind of getting mad about, you know, their language being taken and stuff like that. And it's fair, right? It may not matter in the grand scheme of things. People are going to call the character what they want to call the character at the end of the day. But it's like, hey, at least I learned something. And I'm a bit more smarter than I used to be. But when it comes to the topic of lolly, no matter how much you try to explain, that is basically how, again, the cat thief type of conversation is, right? It's like, well, let's look at lolly from a more historical type of spectacle of things, right? When it comes down to things, the word Lolita comes from, obviously, the old-ass book, where it was about some old-ass man or whatever, basically trying to get with this underage person. And obviously, that book is weird, right? It is straight up weird, because obviously we know it's more speaking about it in a more realistic sort of sense, and there's no anime there at all, because anime wasn't like a thing at that point in time, right? So obviously when we think about it, it's like, yeah, that book is a bit weird, right? It's a fictional book and a fictional story nonetheless, but it's still weird to kind of look back at it, right? Because you think about the time period too. You're at a point in time where something like cartoons, anime, and manga and all that type of stuff, that doesn't exist yet. You're looking at that in that type of lens, or it's not widely known at that point in time, right? So when it comes down to things, you're looking at it and you're reading it, and you can't only but imagine a real life person in that sort of situation. And of course, looking back at it, yes, it would be insanely weird. It's insanely weird to think about it in that sort of sense, right? So you're probably thinking, why is this different and this is fictional versus, you know, anything lolly related now that we have, right? It's timing. It's essentially timing. Think about it like this. Back in the 1990s, there was a Coppertone commercial where they were basically showing this young girl was essentially running across this beach, and her bikini was getting pulled down by a dog. Now, if you ask anybody that's seen that commercial from the 1990s, they would say that this was fine at the time, mainly because it was more innocent, it was more about youth, it was more about, you know, the product, right? If you ask anybody in this time period now, past that point, they will say this is predatory behavior, this is weird, this is absolutely strange, and anybody that is for it would definitely 100% be somebody that needs to be on a watch list or something like that. Even though in the 90s, with those people, they were thinking this is fine because they didn't think about it like that. No one really did. And again, it's about that timing yet again. Hell, really, even words can be affected by time. And it's not just the perspective of like what we see some of the time. Even words can be affected. Really think about it, right? A lot of the time when someone's talking about, you know, lolly, it obviously comes from the book and the word lolita, right? Which usually is more so about fashion And yeah, it can relate to a underage person and things of that sort, right? And that's where that kind of derives from. But when you really think about it, really look at how the Japanese use the word Lolita. They take off the TA and essentially made their own shit from it. Essentially, okay, you can have Lolita while we take lolly, and then we'll add lollycon to that as well, so we can make our own thing with that word. And guess how lolly and lollycon is usually referred to a lot of the time? It's usually referred to fictional characters and, you know, an obsession or maybe a type of mindset going into with those type of characters regarding the word lollycon, right? And that's just kind of is what it is, but it's more so obviously on the fictional side of things, where Lolita was first really more about the more realistic side, because you also have the fashion side of it, you have the old ass standard of it, and how, you know, back in those days, even again with that book Lolita, you can think about it like, well, because we're in that time period and things like cartoons don't exist, so yeah, you might just straight up imagine that type of relationship going on, and it's insanely weird and it's insanely creepy. But that's the only type of way you could define it at the time. Because, yeah, there was no other way to think about it, right? That's what's gonna come into your brain. Now we have lolly and lollycon, and really more so the word lolly, if anything. And when you look at that word and you think about it, now you can think, okay, so it's not that, right? It's not in that sort of context anymore. It's in a context about fictional characters, about how, you know, things in anime or cartoons in America and things of that sort, right? And that just kind of is what it is. Time changes a lot of shit, and I guarantee you, no auntie out there basically be using their brain to put in context clues to be thinking, okay, so Lolita is a bit different than lolly, right? It comes from that word, but a lot of the time it's a very different thing, or it's like not in the same realm as that word used to mean anymore. Because there is no Japanese person out there that is really using Lolita like that to describe an anime character or anything fictional. No, they use the word lolly because that's what it usually goes to. And hell, majority of the people in Japan don't even know that the word lolly came from the actual book Lolita. So that says a lot right there, right? They have already created their own idea of what a, you know, lolly type of term is going to be used for, and what is it going to be ultimately bringing up for in the future, right? And again, with the history of the whole lollycon and lolly history video I did like a very long time ago, if you go back and pay attention to that, you would know that in the very beginning of what they were going to push that term into, they really just sat down and just wanted to try to see what they can do with an art style sort of sense. Basically, I think Comic Kit was still back then, and essentially what they wanted to do was make a way where they can do things like how the ladies do their things with different stories as well, how they have two boys with each other and they be in this love story and stuff like that, or these really crazy ass scenes with these more mature and adult sort of scenes and stuff like that. And then that's when you have people like Hideo Azuma and the person that made Astro Boy, and all of them kind of come through to make their own shit and essentially use female characters in those sort of ways. And that's kind of how things kind of went from that point, right? And it was never about, oh, we're using young girl characters, so we're gonna have a fun time with that. No, it was never about that. The first thing that came into anybody's mind, Hideo Azuma's mind, was essentially, oh, well, let's see how we can draw these characters in like using the Bishoujo style of how characters look back then, and see how we can use it in a more adult type of setting and things like that. And really focusing on the art style and things of that sort. And that's why you see the whole thing in the 1980s with the lollycon boom, and why so many people were so obsessed with making lollycon stories and things of the sort. And it was a fine time, right? Yes, also at that point in time, you did have people coming through making more raunchier and lewder stories with said characters because they absolutely could. And that's not really more on Hiro Azuma when it comes down to why he started and all that type of stuff, or even the person that made Astro Boy. It's not even on him. It was basically on another person who was really on that perverted factor and wanted to do something with that, which is a person I have yet to talk about, which is Aki Uchiyama, which is also known as the king of lollycons. So, if anything, if there was a person that you wanted to put any shift and blame as to why lolly went into this crazy perverted route, or why it even is a thing, Aki Uchiyama is the person that you would possibly want to blame. Granted, I don't know if they're alive today or not, and granted, there is a lot of like mystery around this person because there is some facts there. Like at one point he did create a character for almost putting into Macross, the Macross series, but never really got that chance because people were kind of scared about putting a lolly character in that series, which was funny. And then there's also like different manga that he made as well, and we'll go into that in a very separate video. But point is, like, that's where a lot of the stuff kind of diverged, essentially. The person that made Astro Boy was like, you're gonna use this, but only to our benefit, to get ourselves up there, to get our anime and art up there, because we don't necessarily care about lolly like that in that sort of way, or in general, honestly. We're just using it to boost our status. Hideo Azuma cared about it in a artistic style sort of sense, and then Aki Uchiyama cared about it in a very lewd sort of sense. And that's why you have things the way it is as it is now. And even though Aki had like a lot of Arrow manga and stuff like that, keep in mind as well that this was also at a point in time where his works was put into Shonen Jump, or more called Shonen Champions back at that time. So yeah, even younger people were reading that shit because at the time, again, it was pretty much normal. And while it's more of a taboo now, I guarantee you, if the otaku killer wasn't a thing, I guarantee you this would still be somewhat more fine than it is now. I guarantee you, 100%. And I know what an ANC is probably thinking. They're probably thinking, well, if time changes all things, like you said, then that means lolly needs to go away, right? Right? That's what you say. You can't take that back, right? Bitch, you can't take that back. Right? And first of all, get some damn tit ties because your breath hot as hell. But number two, when it comes down to things, you're correct. Right? Things should change. But here's the thing. Think about it like this as well. If you look at everything that humanity has been through, a lot of things change on the realistic sort of sense. Right? When it comes down to certain things that was acceptable back then, things like that can still go into fictional media, mainly because it's fictional media. Fiction can stand the test of time where humanity and their adaptation involvement cannot, essentially. When you see murder in real life was more rampant and just crazy back then, and it's still crazy now, and you see that being outlawed and all that type of stuff in certain places where it was fine, and war settings where all that stuff is just, you know, crazy as hell. A lot of that stuff tried not to happen a lot more now and then. But then you see a lot of games that kind of continue to be out there where, you know, murder is fine, or war happens a lot of the time in the narrative of those stories. And they can stand the test of time and do things that real life should never replicate or do, you know? And that's perfectly fine to some people, honestly. If there was a point in time where, I know by saying, oh, well, murder in a video game is different from real life. Let me use a different example. Remember in GTA 4 how there was a point in time where I believe someone was saying that video games in real life were saying that video games is bad and are no good and all that sort of stuff? Well, in GTA 4, there was a mission where that same person kinda essentially was saying the same things in GTA, going off of the same type of mantra that he was saying, and in the game you could kill that man. You could kill that man because it's a fictional game and they're poking fun at what that guy was basically saying. And you know, that's something that you can do in the game. That's not necessarily something that you should replicate or do to that person in real life, no matter how much you might not necessarily like his stance. Same thing with a lot of other things in fiction, honestly. Just because back then there was a lot of moments in different countries and different cultures where you can have a child be put in a very uncomfortable and weird predicament. But nowadays, you can have that in real life, obviously, because it's not meant to be like that. But in fiction, you could do whatever the hell you want to. Keep them safe, or put them in that weird predicament. It does not necessarily matter, because again, fiction kind of just stands the test of time. It is what it is when it comes down to things. Even when it comes to morally gray subjects, a lot of the time you can sit down and you can make whatever content that you want to make, as long as it's not really affecting the real world or certain people or anything like that. Even if it's the most strangest, weirdest thing that even I couldn't agree with, you can make it because it's fiction at the end of the day, right? It may not be anything that anyone likes, but you can still delve into it because it's not real. Like for me, for example, do I like the concept of murder? No, I think the concept of murder is disgusting, and it's insane that people like it or want to do it or have a fascination with it in some shape and form, right? Acting on that impulse is absolutely disgusting. But then you have games like Mortal Kombat or games like GTA or what other games that's out there that does a lot of violent and crazy things, and then it's fine. Again, because it's fiction, it can withstand that. Even if it shows crazy ass imagery, at the end of the day, it is what it is. That's why a lot of the damn time, it doesn't make sense when a school shooting happens and then people immediately blame games. Because at the end of the day, you already had that dark impulse in you that is telling you to do it. You did it because you did it. That was your choice. You could have not have done so. You could have not have went about that route, right? You could have just sat and waited it out, but no, you decided to go take some lives because you did that. No game has told you to do it. And even if a game motivated you to do it, it is still at the end of the day your choice. Same thing with loli. If some person decides to actually take it out on an actual child, at the end of the day, it's not the loli material's fault. It is not necessarily the creator of said material's fault. It is the person that is consuming it and is very much more immature in the head that went about and did the horrible thing. Obviously, that should be the thing that people should obviously know. If it's something that is going to, mess with your brain and not necessarily let you do what you if it's gonna mess with you in a way where it's gonna make you harm somebody, then don't consume the media. Just because it has an M-rated thing on the damn box does not necessarily mean that, oh, I'm an adult now, so I can look at whatever the hell I want. No, if you know something is gonna F you up, and you know it's strange and it's weird, you probably shouldn't look at it. You probably shouldn't even engage with it, right? The best thing you can do is just steer clear from it and then just be like, no, that's not it for me, right? And even if you have to voice your complaints about it, okay, but you don't have to go about it in a way where people must be hurt or people must be thrown down basically a whole ass well, like it's The Ring or some shit. You don't have to basically do that. You can state your piece and then go about your business. Who cares? At the end of the day, it's so boring and trash that everybody has to go out their way to harass everybody just to justify what they like. Hell, aged up art doesn't make any sense because you like the character, you just don't want to put them in that position because you want to justify what you like. You don't have to do that. A lot of times people don't do that, honestly. Hell, when it comes to different artists that is out there, they'll just draw the character because they like that damn character, despite whatever the hell people may think or whatever, like No Blood, when it comes down to his art of pain and stuff like that, he just draws whatever the hell he wants to because he likes that character, I'm assuming, or whatever the hell is coming to his brain, he will just draw that shit. And then sometimes you put in danger people who had absolutely nothing to do with it whatsoever, like a Shinpain with the pan post and all that sort of stuff. And it's bonkers how people went about that situation. He was literally paid to make that artwork. He was literally paid to make Pan do those things and be a part of that situation. It is what it is. He's just getting paper at the end of the day. You mad because he's getting some paper? Like, that's wild. And then I know there's some other part of the conversation where somebody might be thinking, well, alright, let's say lolly is fine. But what if someone decides to take lolly in a different route? Maybe change up the art style or trace over an image of an actual event that shouldn't have taken place with said underage person. And to that I say, we know. We already know. Why do you think I went on my way to basically talk videos about artist unappreciation, where there's been artists that has drawn characters and try to trace it over real life images of things of the sort that they should not be having in their possessions, or have videos where basically we talked about the different aspects of subgenres of lolly, where people try to consider it lolly but it's really not, like the 3D computer generated version, the AI looking versions, the many other versions like T-Con and whatever, you know, all that sort of stuff. We talked about it on this channel because I want to educate you and want you to learn and use your brain for once and be smart about the subject when it comes down to it. Like, I'll be completely honest with you, a lot of that stuff is not lollycon. A lot of that stuff is its own damn thing. It's its own damn thing because it doesn't follow the anime principles of what it's supposed to be, right? The characters neither look nor they don't really look cute. Some of those characters don't even look anime. Some of those characters don't even have the real deal art style to them. Like, just being honest, a lot of the lollycon material that you often see is not really true lolly material. It's basically just somebody else doing whatever the hell they wanted to. And that's where things can also potentially get weird, right? And there's different things about it that has to be said, which I said in multiple videos before. Like, for instance, you go out your way and you see maybe a picture of, or an animation of, I don't know, Olivia Mann from TF2. Like, you might think, oh, Olivia Mann's kind of cute, but someone else might be like, oh, well, this is some messed up nonsense, right? Here's the thing, if it comes down to a 3D model of it, there is only one way where this is fine and this can be acceptable. If it looks stylized in an art style where it shows you and pretty much reads out to you that that model looks fake as hell and there's no way that could be a realistic looking person, and you know, it has like this stylization of it and it's really looking fake, then that's whatever, right? You still might be uncomfortable with it, which that's perfectly fine, but it's still like a whatever situation. When you go into that more realistic 3D, you know, computerized version of him, that's when shit gets weird. And to be honest, even I get uncomfortable with that shit too. Like, there was a whole ass point in time where people were liking the shit out of like, what's her name? Alice from Detroit Becomes Human. And that shit was weird, mainly because that was a real life person playing that character, and they looked exactly like that character. And plenty of people went out their way to condemn any artist from making any future artwork or animation of that character being in those crazy situations. And to be honest, yes, please do go after those people. Holy shit, that was weird. But when it comes down to things, we don't necessarily be blind to a lot of weird shit that essentially happens. Like, we see it, we call it out when it happens. There is no point in time where a lollycon will be like, yo, I see that this person is using some real life aspects of a person and to put it into like an animation or a picture, and I'm just gonna completely ignore it and whatever. No, majority of lollycons call this shit out because they're smart. They know what to do. They know how to handle these type of people. They know when to report and block these people when they see something going wrong. They know about this more than a weird ass forum out there could possibly ever really know. Like, just being personally honest with you, we can handle shit without any other people coming through telling us this shit is weird. We know, we see that it's weird. We're handling this. right? There's been so many lollycons that's out there trying to basically become different charity organizations, try to help out those charity organizations because they know the real life equivalent to the thing that we often see is effed up. And we don't like it at all, right? Yet people will be so quick, again, without context, go in their way to basically be thinking everything about it is bad, or everything in every aspect is bad and is equally the same, when it's really not, right? Again, if it was a problem, I guarantee you that, you know, the UN would definitely have said something about it before and really try to hone in on that sort of subject, right? Japan has no problem with it. America has, surprisingly, no problem with it. The only people that has a problem with it is people that just be on the internet and waste their time with it. It just really is ridiculous when it comes down to it. And then we have people like me trying to basically tell you what's good and why things are the way they are. You just randomly get attacked. You randomly get, you know, people coming through with some nonsense, trying to take you down in some shape and form over a fictional character. And again, a lot of those times, they just basically try to chuck in like the real life aspect of it. And it's like, dude, nobody was talking about any type of real life person. What are you talking about? We were talking about how fine Kana was. We wasn't talking about no real life person. Why is that such a big thing? Like, I imagine you're sus because you brought it up first. I imagine so. And if not, if you don't really believe that, think about it like this. How many times have we seen literally people that's against lollycon be proven to be some monster of a person, right? Time and time again, you hate lolly, you're probably some damn beast of a person that is a monster to society, 100%, right? And then at least when it comes down to things, if someone is going to basically be thinking about a dark impulse, at least you have lolly there to stop them from doing that sort of thing, right? I'd rather you take it out on a fictional character than a real life person any day of the week. Still, go to therapy, get yourself fixed up. But at the end of the day, at least you're not necessarily trying to do something to a real life person. Handle that shit yourself. Kind of like how -8 is, right? Just stay away from that shit completely. Had a weird ass thing at the back end of your, you know, the early days of your content and whatever. But now stay away from all that shit, right? Stay away from all that shit completely, because you know something maybe could happen, or people could start talking shit and all that sort of stuff. And just do yourself a favor and just stay away from all and every bits of it, right? And it's insanely funny how every single time someone of the lower bar of, like, I guess followers or content creation, so many people want to come out the random ass woodwork just because, oh, you don't like X or O character and whatever, and then be ready to just flame your ass up like they dropped a flame up some roasting contest, like it's, you know, the Super Hot Fire Remix Boogaloo Part 2. But then you have people like Gura that's out there that is high in levels, who is an open lolly who likes lewd content too. Or Yui with that damn freaking lollycon song that is out there just having millions of views, yet I don't see anybody going after that person at all. Or any other person that has been said that they're an open lollycon or an open Shotacon, and y'all don't even bother with Shotacon. Oh, if boys are a part of it, that's fine. If lollies are a part of it, we gotta fight. Strange. It's so weird and it's so strange. Anytime I see this, it doesn't make any sort of sense. My whole point is this: if you just learn about something, voice your opinion, criticize it, don't necessarily like it, and then move on with the rest of your day, you'll be fine. I would have zero problem, much less I wouldn't even have to talk about lolly in the first damn place if it wasn't for the fact that everybody goes dumb stupid on the subject, because no one knows anything. How can you hate someone or hate something if you don't know what they did or what it even is? Or use your brain for more than 3 seconds instead of slamming your hands on the keyboard and just start sending random ass messages to people. That's like if someone's like, oh, I hate all criminals. All criminals need to be punished to the fullest extent of the law. But you see one person that's like 18 or something that's in that damn prison cell, and you're just like, dude, all I did was basically vandalize a wall on Walmart. I didn't even hit nobody. I didn't even cuss out the officers. I didn't say anything. Why are you on my ass? Granted, does that change the fact that he's wrong? No, he, kind of deserves to do something. Though I think prison is a little too wild for vandalism. But still, nonetheless, it's just like, bro, it's just like, not every person on the same wavelength, right? Especially with some people being like, calling me like the most extreme lollycon there is. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I am not necessarily on a level of anime, like as a lot of people be thinking, I ain't the type of person that have a lot of merch of anime stuff. I'm not the type of person that has a lot of anime related things in my possession. I don't have a lot of that shit, right? Yeah, I have a figurine or two. I have posters. That's essentially it, right? Because I wanted those things. Outside of that, I don't have the body pillows. I don't have the plushies. I don't have wallpaper painted on my wall. I ain't plastered in anime gear constantly when it comes to the shirts I wear. There's times I don't wear anime shirts, dude. I don't wear that shit. I don't sleep that shit all the time. There's a lot of time I don't watch anime. I play maybe anime games, but I don't watch that shit. Because there's nothing interesting at the moment. I don't go and froth at the mouth at the new season of anime. I just don't. And anytime there's something lolly related, fun fact, if you really pay attention, I really haven't talked about anything lolly related seriously within 2 to 3 months. Because I kind of talked to death this damn subject, honestly. I talked about everything that there is to be of everything regarding it. And anytime I do bring it up, yes, I do have fun with it. Yes, I do say a lot of wild things. But keep in mind, it's because it's fictional. If it was real, then yes, I would take back 100% everything I said. Much less, I would have said it in the first damn place. So that's understandable if it was real. But because I know someone like Kana is not, I can say whatever wild shit I should be able to. Right? Same thing with a lot of the lollycon VTubers that's out there, or the lolly VTubers and stuff that's out there, right? A lot of those people just like those characters, or like it in that sort of way, because they just like it in that sort of way, or they want to play as those characters. They shouldn't have to be harassed for playing or liking those characters, right? They shouldn't. And yet that's what ends up usually happening, and it's stupid, and it's retarded, and it's every other word in the book that is with the term stupid. It's just a weird idiocy that people have because they don't know anything. That's partially the reason why I continued to basically talk about lolly. Whenever there's something interesting about the topic maybe I haven't thought about before, I'll bring it up, mainly because I want my people on my channel and the people that tune in to watch me, whether you're new or not, to be smart, to actually have a brain, to be way more better than any of these other people on the internet in any other community. That's essentially why. I don't want you to come through just hate something just because you hate it. I want you to, if you hate it, have a reason why and be civil enough to be like, hey, I don't F with this myself, but if you do, I'm not going to say anything about it, but I just personally don't F with it, and I ain't going to really respond to these type of videos like that. Fine! The most valuable type of person with the most valuable type of logic and brain when it comes to these type of discussions. Makes sort of sense, right? It makes all the sense in the world to talk about it in this sort of way, to have that logic saying you don't like it, but if someone else does, it is what it is, but I just don't personally like it like that. Okay, it's what it is. It is what it is. Even if you said it in a mean ass way, being like, this shit is whack, this shit is stupid, I don't like this shit, anybody like this shit is weird to me, but it is what it is, I don't necessarily care for this shit. Even if it's a mean ass way, it's a bit effed up, but fine, it is what it is. Because guess what? You didn't really go after anybody. You didn't say a whole bunch of crazy ass shit that cannot be basically repeated like in a lot of those image boards when it comes to this, right? That's not what you basically said. You just don't like the material, and that's okay. No lollycon is forcing you to like the material. If you happen to see it, you can mute the word. You can block the account. Perfectly fine. Ignoring something can be a surefire way of killing something. But not a lot of people know that though. I think if you hate somebody or you want to do somebody dirty in the worst possible way because they like something that you don't, or they appreciate something and want to learn about something that you don't want to learn about or don't want to appreciate, I think that's bullshit. I think that's actual bullshit. Because at the end of the day, somebody has to learn about this shit. Somebody is wanting to be a part of it, and you can't stop everybody on this damn planet. It just is what it is. When it comes to my content, I basically aim for people who is on the same wavelength as me, who has somewhat the same sort of likes and mindset as I do, and mainly focus my content for just basically for me and what I would like to see, and hopefully people will like that shit too. Same thing with Kokatsu's story. I know there's people that don't like it. There's people that complains about it constantly, saying it's weird and it's shitty. And fine, if you think so, okay, it is what it is. But I'm going to continue making my weird and shitty series because I personally wanted to test my limits as a writer personally. And I said it before and I'll say it again. Even if that series had 0 views on it, I would still make episodes just because it's something I want to do and I want to see it. So of course I'm still gonna pursue that damn story. No matter how many times you will see Jay basically bang whatever character that's in his way, or do a lot of crazy ass things and, you know, take away certain aspects of characters that you might like that I don't necessarily like, I'll still continue to do it because it's something that I wanted to do. And I've been wanting to do for kind of a decent amount of time, thinking about it when I had that model handed to me. And as far as the lolly topic goes, I was basically like, let me talk about it because one, I'm bored and I have nothing else to talk about and no one really talks about lolly, so I'll talk about it because randomness. And then two, let's actually learn the reason why people don't like this or why people do like it and educate myself into what this is. And that's the reason why, essentially, right? Someone needs to learn it because no one can tell you at all where the word lolly itself, not Lolita, the TA taken off, where does the word lolly really originate from? Because I can't look it up and figure it out, honestly. It will always say Lolita, but it never tells you where lolly itself as a word comes from, right? Or is it a slang term? Or what is it? There is no sources I can find for myself, at least for my research, of what it is. But there's so much other stuff that I'm like, okay, if I can't figure that out, I'll figure out what everything else is. Because no one really knows what lolly truly is outside of the research that you have to put in and see for yourself, right? And that's what I wanted to do. Basically, as time gonna goes on, yes, tell you about the fun of it and then the characters that I like. And yeah, go crazy and off the wall with it because wacky YouTuber says wacky things. But when it comes down to things, there's also an aspect to it where it's like, let's learn about this subject. Let's dive into it and see why there is so much stuff around anime that refers around to that type of topic and genre and stuff like that, right? Let's talk about it a little bit and learn why it is the way it is. I want to learn, unlike a lot of other people that just basically hate off the first mention of the word because they're thinking it's real when it's not, and you're the only one that bringing in this conversation. So if the FBI is gonna arrest somebody, it's gonna be your ass for bringing it up in the first damn place of real life. So it's just like, let's just learn about this shit and understand it, why it is the way it is. Because I don't know if you noticed, but when it comes down to things, lolly's still fine in Japan. Yeah, it's a little bit more taboo now, but guess what? People still make content when it comes to it. And people still don't really care too much when it comes down to lolly characters and stuff. at the end of the day because they know it's fictional. And hell, even tomorrow, it's supposed to be, I think, an anime with a vampire is supposed to be coming out with a loli character and a maid that's obsessed with her, which that's supposed to be coming out tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to that, mainly because that seems like a very well drawn show, and plus I'm kind of interested in what's kind of happening, right? So, again, to top off everything I basically said, and hopefully I covered a lot of stuff regarding it, and people hopefully will pay attention to this video and things of that sort. I am not the most extreme lollycon out there. I just wanted to learn about the subject and why it is the way it is. Why is there VTubers out there like this? Why does it basically be the start of a lot of anime? Like, without lolly, you wouldn't have, you know, hentai at all. You wouldn't have cat girls. You wouldn't have a lot of other stuff regarding anime if you are a part of that genre, honestly, you know? And even when it comes down to your favorite fandoms like Ruby or, you know, your Danganronpas and stuff like that, sometimes it took a lolly to do some things to get those places to where they need to go, so you have stories of those sorts and stuff like that. Which also I find hilarious when it comes to certain fandoms like Danganronpa. Like, y'all be sometimes mad when it comes to lolly characters like Kodako and Hyoko and Himiko and be put in these crazy situations by the fans. But the creator also puts the female cast into wild situations too, like Mikan and Miu. And hell, Hyoko had a whole bath scene with Mahiru. They would need to see that? No, but they did it anyway because they just like that type of material. It is what it is, right? Hell, in Rain Code, it's slightly different, but like, did we have to see Martina Electro be fondled? Not really. Did we have to see, basically, or hear Fubuki Clockwork calling herself dummy thick? Not necessarily, but that's the cup of tea you're gonna get with Kodaka. He's literally that type of person, and even himself said in one of his Twitter posts a little while ago, saying that he's gonna make the games for the people that likes his shit and have the same type of mindset of him, and that's fine, right? I'm not trying to appeal to everybody. I don't care if I don't appeal to everybody. That's the major point. Now, the main point is that I want people with a similar mindset to mine to basically come through, learn some things, enjoy your time, enjoy your stay at this nice ass hotel, and then see where we can all come together with our own conclusions while being respectful and more mature than majority of the internet. It's not that hard. So that's just how it is. There's just so much to this conversation that someone really should take a look at and really think about in a more mature way instead of having a bias, like a lot of these anime YouTubers do, or having some type of idea that is just completely wrong without learning about what it is, right? As I said before, with a lot of the terms, time kind of changes those things. And I know somebody could say, well, what about Lolita anime? Huh? What about the first hentai that was ever made in Japan regarding anything ecchi and all that type of stuff? What about that? And to you I say that refers back to the time thing. Because think about it, that was like one or a few instances where someone used Lolita to refer to anime and fiction. If you look at it again now, a lot of people don't really refer to it with Lolita. We usually say lolly or lollycon or all that type of stuff, right? And I'll be completely honest too, with a lot of instances when it comes to lollycon people, a lot of the time people are so quick to be saying, oh, it's the lollycon complex and people are obsessed with this stuff, right? But a lot of time, a lot of lollycon people are not that obsessed. There is those ones, there is those extremists that's everything lolly, everything sort of, you know, with that type of thing, and you know, that's the type of thing I'm not a part of. But when it comes down to it, there is always going to be the extremists of lollycon. Like, there's going to be the extremists of serial killer, like, you know, type of, I guess, people that are interested in serial killers and stuff like that. Or the type of crazy internet Twitter freaks, fanatics, and extremists of that sort, right? There's always going to be extremists when it comes to it, but the majority is not necessarily all that extreme. I'll just be completely honest with you. And as I said before, if you are a business or a market that often works with lolly characters or has a need to use it in this sort of way, It's a market to be had. People will buy lolly characters like they do in Genshin, or they do in different anime and stuff. People like, hell, in Spy Family, Anya's more popular than Yor. The child is more popular than the adult in the room, which is hilarious. Because Anya just sells. She's just fun. She's adorable in her series. And I never even watched Spy Family to know that, right? So it is what it is. And a lot of times you will see underage characters be used in anime because that's kind of like the key point in time where a lot of these creators will use it. Not in every show, but they use it a lot of the times of these different shows. And it is what it is, because the high school point in time, in at least when it comes to their logic, is like your most peak form of time, right? Is where everything could go down. So, again, at the true end of all this, learn your history, learn all this sort of stuff when it comes to lolly and, you know, what it is. Why do you hate this subject first? And then learn about it. If you go into it just because you think it's fun or you think it's, you know, something funny to be hating on, you're just adding issues to the problem where it didn't have to be, right? And it's stupid. At the end of the day, it's truly stupid. When someone says they don't like lolly or lollycon people, okay then, what is it? And if you go on the basic principle of like it's morally gray and it just feels wrong because it's, bro, it's a child, dude. Well, let's look at it about this in a different way. Did you know about the history of it? Did you know about what it really was? Did you know where it derived from? Did you know about the certain aspects of it, right? Well, yes, it is a morally gray area. I will give you that one. I will agree. However, there is a clear line of what is real and what is not. What one person might do and enjoy that content might not be the exact same for real life, right? That's not how that boat goes. And if there is a time where someone is going to enjoy both of them in the same shape and form, then obviously we're going to go after that person. Then we're going to go and stop that person before they harm anybody else. And as you've seen, with as many YouTubers has come out as predators, as many different types of big influencer people come out as monsters, we often call them out plenty of different times. And people often be more quick to bring them up. Even if it's in a different community, they're quick to bring them up. Because guess what? We're not stupid. We can see. We don't need all these crazy ass forums and all these different groups and organizations to try to come through to police online when the people itself can police themselves. We'll be fine, right? And at the end of the day, a lot of the time when it comes to these conversations of lolly, we are talking about fiction. The moment you add in anything real is where things get stupid. And it didn't even have to go that way in the first place because we were just talking about a character. The moment you add in something else weird, it just goes on to like, buddy, what are we talking about? That was not what we was planning on talking about in the first damn place. We were talking about Kana, or Konako, or whatever lolly character that exists out there. We are talking about a fictional state of being of a person. And then you add real life stuff into it. And then you wonder why a lot of the time Twitter is a hellscape, or other places online is a hellscape. Because no one uses a brain or context clues to actually give you what you need to know. Because at the end of the day, we're just talking about fictional characters, and that's it. There is nothing else added to it. Fictional characters, and that's essentially it. And as I usually do with a lot of these videos, I would definitely go out my way to put the charity links in the description as per usual. And I want you to also, in the comments, put down your own charity links to help children to get out of these abusive situations and these dark times, and basically give them the relief that they potentially need, or you could donate to them if you can, or just give insightful knowledge about the subject of helping real children as well. Please put that in the comments of the video, because it's so important that we basically separate this shit, something that's very clearly that should have been separated for a long time, and really go about it in that shape and form, because this shit is bonkers how people are just with this subject, and how easily hatred can fast go through this quick, fast, in a hurry because they want to start adding in extra shit. Okay, you like lolly, but also this thing, no, it's just lolly. It's just a fictional character. There is nothing else you need to add to this conversation. If it's something real, keep it to yourself. We don't want real shit. We just want fake shit. That's literally what it is. That's all it is. Ain't nobody trying to harm anybody. Ain't nobody trying to go out their way to harass nobody over you should be forced to look at this nonsense. No. There's no reason. There's no reason for people to send you gore or bloody ass videos or potentially try to bomb you or try to figure out your location or anything like that because you like a fictional effing character. Literally, like this character, grow up. It is insanely stupid how people are regarding this topic, and it's insanely even more dumb when anime YouTubers have a fat ass platform, do no research, and just hate it just because they want to hate it because YouTube works like that. It feeds off of negativity and it boosts your whole channel in the algorithm when you say something negative. Can we have positivity, please? Damn! But that's essentially all I really have to say for this one, so hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification on your way out. Also follow me on the socials, and if you'd like to donate to the channel, Patreon is available as well. And again, please go to the charity links if you can donate or learn something. Please do, to help out some real children, because they need it. They need all this attention that we talk about on Lolly. This is the type of attention that they need. And keep them away from different 18+ accounts and fandoms and things like that, because they don't need to be there, they need to be safe. That's the biggest takeaway of everything. And until then, this is your boy Jay, sign off. Have a blessed day.